Thank you for taking the time to watch this video about the buyer broker service agreement. Before we can go look at homes, it's required that we have this agreement in place. The first paragraph of the agreement says that I will provide a consultative approach to help you understand what financing is available and write offers on your behalf. I'll also be negotiating and receiving counter offers on your behalf and communicating to you throughout this process. So basically, I represent you, and please come to me with any of those questions and I will make sure you get the answers that you need. Number 2 says basically what I just told you, that we have to have this agreement signed before we can go look at homes. And number 3 says that you are not in an agreement that's currently enforced with another agent. The number 4 buyer affidavit says that under Oklahoma law that the buyer will sign an affidavit at closing or before closing on this property saying that you are a U.S. citizen, a Native American, or a non-citizen alien who is or shall become a bona fide resident of Oklahoma in compliance with state law. Number 5, the duration of this agreement. We can make this agreement as short or as long as you would like to have it in place. If we don't put anything in the blank, then it will be for 60 days. I always put something in the blank, even if it's just for 2 days to show a new client a house, and then we get to know each other and decide if we want to work together for a longer period of time, if it takes longer than that to find them the home. Number 6, the termination of this agreement. This agreement may be canceled by either party with a 3 business day notice. However, if we're under contract, then I'm still due compensation and the agreement stays in place. If I show you a property and within 60 days you decide to go make an offer on that property, then I'm still due compensation. Number 7, compensation of a broker. The buyer acknowledges the compensation in this agreement is fully negotiable and not set by law. The compensation section of this agreement must be completed before you sign it. We can't go back and fill in the blanks later. A says that the buyer shall pay the broker at closing an amount equal to 3% of the final gross selling price. The buyer shall receive a credit towards the payment of the compensation in an amount equal to any payment made to the broker by any other broker or seller. That basically means that you agree that I should get paid 3% for this transaction. However, I can receive that payment from the seller or from another broker. In general, most sellers are going to offer compensation to the buyer agent. That's me. So when we submit an offer to a seller, we submit a compensation agreement asking for them to pay 3% to me for that transaction. Number 8 says failure to close. If for some reason we do not close and it's not your fault, then you don't owe me anything. If you breach the contract, then compensation is still owed to me if it's not for a specifically good reason, such as you lose a job, family illness, a divorce takes place, something that is pretty much beyond your control. But if you just decide at the last minute for no good reason that you don't want to go through with the transaction, then I am still due the compensation. Number 9, compensation to broker by seller. This basically says that the seller can pay me the amount that was listed in paragraph 7, which we put 3%. They will not pay or cannot pay me more than the percent we put in the blank. They could pay less if we agree upon less after we get or when we get under contract. Compensation is always negotiable and not set by law, and the seller is not required to pay it. But if they want to sell their house, most sellers are paying compensation. So that brings me to for sale by owners. If you drive by a house or see on Zillow that there's a for sale by owner that you would like to maybe view their property, you can ask me about it and I can call that for sale by owner and ask if they're willing to pay a buyer's agent. If they are, that's great news. We can go look at the house and potentially move forward with a contract on it. If they're not willing to pay a buyer's agent, then you would have to decide if you want to pay me that 3% or if we would want to move on and look at other properties. Number 10 says cost of services and products obtained from outside sources like surveys, inspections, title work. Those are your responsibility, and I will do my best to give you an estimate before those services are provided. I can make recommendations for title companies, surveyors, and inspectors, but ultimately it's your decision who you decide you want to use. You're always in the driver's seat. I have relationships with my title company, my inspectors, and other contractors that I recommend, and I believe they provide excellent services, or I would not recommend them to you. But again, that's always your decision if you want to use a different service. Other buyers. I can represent other buyers who may be wanting to place an offer on the same house that you want to place an offer on, and that is permitted in the state of Oklahoma. Number 12 says we are equal opportunity and we don't discriminate against anyone because of their age, their race, their color, their nationality, their familial status, their disability, or sex. We don't work with jerks, and they're not a protected class. So if someone decides they're going to be disrespectful and go around me and not work with me in a professional manner, then we might release them from our services because they're not considered a protected class. Counterparts. If more than one person is named as the buyer, a separate conforming agreement may be executed with each buyer, and you'll get a copy of this agreement. Usually I'll email that to you after all parties have signed it. And then the last page of this agreement is a list of the brokerage duties, responsibilities, and services. This basically says that I'm going to treat this transaction and any transaction with skill and care. If I don't know the answer to something, I'm going to find out the answer. Unless specifically waived in writing by a party to the transaction, I'll receive all written offers and counter offers. Now, sometimes if we're going back and forth, I'll talk to you about what the counter offer has been, and then once we have everybody's agreement verbally, we'll put it in writing, just because then that saves everybody a little bit of time. But your offer will always be in writing. And I'll put that in writing for you and submit it in a timely manner, timely account for any money or property received, and keep all of your information confidential, especially if you think you might be willing to give more for a property than your original offer. That is totally confidential between you and me. I would never let a seller agent or the seller know, yeah, well, you would actually give a little bit more for this property than what the offer reflects. On the other hand, if I have a seller that is willing to take less, I cannot disclose that they're willing to take less. In the state of Oklahoma, a realtor can represent both the buyer and the seller in the same transaction. However, if that makes my buyer uncomfortable, I'm completely willing to refer my buyer to another agent in my office so that you feel adequately represented. If I represent both the seller and the buyer in a transaction, basically I'm just a mediator between the two. I tell the buyer what the seller says and vice versa. And I am just passing along information. I'll disclose any information about the property that I'm made aware of. I'll have you sign a disclaimer or disclosure stating from the seller what they're aware of that is working and not working. If I'm made aware of something that's not working, that's not in the disclosure, I'll also make you aware of that. And then if you have any questions about any of these documents or any future documents that you may sign, don't hesitate to call, text, or email me. I prefer a phone call or text so that I get it immediately. If it goes to my email, it might be a little bit before I see it. And I want to be on top of answering your questions in a timely manner if we are in the process of negotiation, especially because I don't want anything to delay us getting you under contract. As we go through the transaction, I will make sure you receive an estimated cost to buyer that shows all the services that are provided during the transaction, what your closing cost will be, and I'll coordinate that with your finance company so we are all on the same page and you can anticipate what your cost will be to close and what your monthly payment will be. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you, and my goal is to become your realtor for life. Most people only move every 7 to 10 years, some 25 to 30 years. With that said, if you know anyone that's thinking about moving and they need a referral for a realtor, I hope that you'll remember to give them my name. At the end of this transaction, I'm going to ask you to give us a Google review, and my anticipation is that I will earn a 5-star review. If anywhere along the way you feel like that's not taking place, I'm not providing you with excellent service, please let me know so I can improve, because I'm always looking to improve. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with you.